All right, in this tutorial, we are going to be working on a multiplicity project where we're going to be photographing one subject multiple times and then compositing our images in Photoshop, putting them all together into one image. So for this project, you'll want to shoot your photos on a tripod so that your images all overlap. And then you're going to have your subject move around and do different things within the scene. When your subjects do overlap, it does get a little bit trickier to composite, but not too hard. And that is that. So I've already shot my images, and I'll kind of walk you through the shoot here. So I selected them all, put them in a collection called Multiplicity. Let's see. So I experimented really quick with turning on a light versus no light. And the light just really made the car pop. So I added this little LED light to my scene. So it just had a little bit more color and lightness. And then I started shooting and I forgot to turn the light back on. So then I turned it back on. My shutter speed's a little bit slow. So as Mr. N was moving, it got a little bit blurry, but this shot was good. So I started at 5 stars. And then I went through here. I liked this shot and gave it a 5 stars. It's a little dark compared to the other one. This one, I added a little flashlight inside of the car to illuminate Mr. N's face and also illuminate the hood of the car, which I think helped to make it really pop. Otherwise, it would be a lot darker. And then in this image, I had him here, and I actually also hid the flashlight inside the car to give it a little bit more pop. So what I'm going to do is select all those 5-star images. So I'm going to do filters. I'm going to do rated. I already 5-starred them, and I'm going to select them. So I'm holding down Control. Actually, I'm not going to select them. I'm going to edit them first. So the first thing I'm going to do is edit the photo. So I go to the Develop module. I'm not going to work on this one because it's an outlier. It's a little bright, so I'm going to have to darken it. But I'm going to start here. So I'm going to go ahead and brighten it up. I'm going to add some shadows in because it's a little dark down there. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast. I do want a little bit of clarity so it pops more. Maybe a little bit of texture. That's maybe a little too much texture. I'm going to play with the colors. So I'm going to grab this and white balance it. That made it a little pink, so I'm going to just dial it in here. Somewhere in there, I think. I'm going to try one more time. Try this wall. Yeah, it's still red and pink, so I'll just go down a little bit. Somewhere in here. All right. What else would I like to do? Maybe bring down some of these highlights a little bit. And I think that's pretty good. So next what I'm going to do is select my other images I want to sync. So I'm going to hold down Control. And I'm going to sync those images by, so I have my one that's edited. It sees a little symbol, and then I'm going to hit sync. You can hit check all or just the things that you've done and hit synchronize right here. And now all my photos are edited to match. And then let's see. So I like that one. That looks good. This one, I have to decide between this one and this one. I like the one with Mr. N's face. So I'm going to take this one, give it a 0 star, get it out of my collection. Now we'll see that this one is overall too bright. So I'm going to just bring the exposure down. I think it's just the positioning in the photo. It got a little bright there. So now I'm going to just click back and forth. Just try to match it. It's maybe like the... It's getting a little bit brighter. I think I made it a little too dark. There we go. So I think that value looks pretty close, and I think that'll work pretty well. All right, so Now that we have all of our photos selected, this is the final one, but you'll see that later. So now that I have all my photos selected, we're going to move into Photoshop. So what we're going to do is right click, edit in, and you're going to do open as layers in Photoshop. So it's going to open up all your photos as individual layers in one document. So you're just going to give Photoshop a second to load. And you're going to watch the layers load. So you'll see each individual file name. You just let it run, don't click on anything. Now this photo's a little crooked. We can fix that at the very end. We're gonna just leave it in this composition for now, and then later we'll go ahead and edit it. All right, so we got all 4 images. This is the order. So the one that's on the top is the one you see. The next one is this one. The next one is that one. And then that's going to be our background shot. So you're actually not going to cut this one out because we need the whole background. So let's go ahead and put the rest back in. So before we get started, you'll see that as I clicked through them, the angle bounces just a little bit. So what you're going to do is go to the top image, hold down Shift, click on the bottom image while you're holding Shift, and it'll select all the images or layers. Next, you're going to go to Edit at the top, and you're going to go to Auto Align Layers. And even though it's just a slight bounce, misalignment, you're going to want to do this step so that the photos align pretty closely. You're just going to let it run. I just hit auto and hit OK. So it's like very subtle. You'll see like there's a slight shift, just like as you're pressing the shutter button down. All right, so now we're going to get into the good stuff. We're going to cut out our photos. So we're going to go up here. We're going to go to lasso, which is L. If you click and hold, you'll see the tools underneath. So you want to select the lasso tool. For this one, it's not overlapping any of the other photos. I'm just going to go ahead and you want to make sure you get the tire in there. And then any shadows that are part of this pose, you want to get as well. And now we have a selection. So what you're going to do is down at the bottom, you're going to see a little icon. It says Add Layer Mask. You can also right click and do it. I don't know how to do that though. I just do the little icon here. So Add Layer Mask. And when we do that, it's going to cut out our photo. And now we see Mr. N and another Mr. N. So you'll see that there's a little like weirdness over here. There's a little bit of a shadow. We're going to fix that later. So don't you stress. And I can see there's like some lines over here. So we're going to go back in and fix that. There's about 2 different ways that I'll show you how to fix it. Next, we got Mr. N under the car. We're going to go to this next layer. Make sure you select it. Then you're going to go in here and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a circle around him. You're going to see here that his knee gets funky, but we're going to fix it later, so don't stress. Bam. Number 2. Actually, not here. You'll see in the next one. But it's covering some of the chairs, so we'll fix that up. Then we got Mr. N over here, so we got to go onto that next layer. I like the hood of the car underneath here, like in this shot, so I'm going to actually draw around the hood on this one and then make sure I'm getting Mr. N over here. And then I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to cut him out. Uh-oh, I lost his arm here, but we'll fix it, and his legs are missing too. So there we go. 4 Mr. N's all in one shot. So what we're going to do is now we got to go and fix this. You're going to see these black and white things. These are called our layer masks, and this is what it gives us the ability to add and subtract pixels. If we just hit the eraser and went in here, we would erase those pixels forever, and you couldn't adjust it and fix it. But with using a layer mask, we can blend it in. So we're going to go to the brush, B on the keyboard. I can never find it. It looks too much like other tools. So I just hit B. And then over here, we're going to be in pure black, pure white. You don't actually have to go in and set them and stuff. like this would be a pain in the butt. All you got to do is tap D on the keyboard, and it's going to give you default foreground and background colors, which is default black and white. To use white, we're adding, so anything in the mask you see that is white, that's what we're seeing. Anything that's black is where we get these checkerboards, and the checkerboards are just showing you it's transparent. So what we're going to do is a couple things. We can paint with the paintbrush. So if I right click, I can change the size, and then I can also change the hardness, which is how feathered your brush is. So I'm going to make it 0%. And right now with white, I'm adding some information back. So I can paint some stuff back in and make it softer. Or I can actually go over to my properties. And if you go to Window and select Properties, it'll pop it up for you if it doesn't have a check mark already. And you can use the feathering option. And as I move this up, you're going to notice the edge gets softer. You just want to make sure it's not going into your subject. So it just depends on your selection. But you're just going to feather it. So that's a little too much because it's getting into his hat. But that's a really easy way to blend it in. So now if we take a look, let's go here. So now it looks pretty blended in. So you can't really see any seams or anything of that other picture. So now we're going to move on to the next one, which is right here. And this is where we start to get into the problem with overlapping. So we're going to make sure we go to that next photo and select the mask. Now, if you select on the actual photo, see how it's highlighted? When you go to paint, you're literally painting the color black. And that is not good. Control Z, undo. What we want to do is make sure we're on the mask. I'm going to do Control plus, space bar, and pan. And, oops, Control Z. Now to switch between black and white, you can hit those little arrows or tap X on the keyboard. X is your friend. So what I'm going to do is if I start doing it with the same brush, it's a little too feathered, and I'm going to see that, or I'm going to see through his pants. Control Z. So what I want to do is probably make a smaller brush and then make the hardness like more like 75%. And what I'm going to do is then just get in here, and I'm manually just going in here and cleaning that edge. You could use selection tools to do this, and you can do it when you're masking. There's a bunch of ways. Basically anything in Photoshop is going to be 3 ways to do something. So you may have learned a different way. This is just the way I feel like doing it. All right, so that's pretty cleaned up there. And then I just want to check anything over here because a sweatshirt might get involved. And I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. So on the keyboard, you can also use the bracket keys. Left is smaller, and then right is bigger. And you just tap on it, and you can enlarge or make your brush smaller. All right. And this, I feel like this is going to become a problem in a little bit. So I'm just trying to clean this up now. And if I turn off the background, I'll see like, did I do a good job? And I did not. So you can just go in and clean it up. Lots of clicking. All right. Oops. If you mess something up, just always Control Z before you get too far into something. That's my tip of the day. Control Z before you go too far. All right, that's going to be good enough for us, I think. So now we're going to turn it back on. You can Control 0 will bring you back to full screen, nice and easy. And then we're going to add in this last one. So we're going to see, like, again, that same issue. So I'm going to plus and over. And then I'm going to go to this mask. I'm going to start with a bigger brush. We got like a fuzzy edge over here. And then I'm going to come in here. and then X. So I like got into erased too much and got into the wall, so I just got to go back a little. Oops, Control Z. Let's go back. There we go. And then you'll see like the alignment's a little weird, so sometimes you just gotta paint over it. Control Z. Make that a little smaller. Let's see. So I think that's pretty good. So let's Control minus. All right. So we got 4 Mr. N's in there. So let's just click through, see what we got here. So we got that one, which we soften the edges. This one's easy because there's no overlapping. This one, we had to cut out around the leg and stuff. I'm going to check this edge. And because the lighting and exposure are exactly the same, we didn't have to really blend it. And then we have this one right here. Ooh, and we got a little line there, so I'm just going to make this bigger. I'm just kind of go back to a softer brush. And I'm going to just blend that here. All right, I think that's pretty good. So let's put them all back. All right, so now that you're done, what you can do is file and save. So I'll do file, and I'm going to do save, regular save. And that's going to save it and give you a version in Lightroom. So we should hopefully have, there we go, pops up, a brand new version in Lightroom. So now we can do our final edits. So I'm going to go over my final edits with you. So I'm going to go to the crop tool first because I think it's a little crooked. And I also feel as though there's this extra space here that is distracting for me. So I want to crop it different. So I'm going to maybe do an 8x10. And then I'm going to go in there. I feel like I'm going to lose too much. So maybe I'll try a 5x7. Let's expand this a little bit. Let's go that way. So maybe something like so. There we go. So we got the lift, so you can still see that the car's not just floating, it's straightened, and so we do have a little bit of negative space there. All right, so the next thing, we can do some editing. So in my final one I did a different crop, but I did some like more fancy editing. Where I used some layer mask, I played with color a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that here. Now I want to straighten this a little more. Okay. So what I did was I went in and brushed the background to darken it. So I went in with my brush and I selected darken, burn, and I made my brush larger. And then I like to do O as an overlay to see where I'm actually painting. And I just changed the size of the brush by scrolling, but you can also do it under your settings, which is going to be over here. And you have control over how much feathering you have. So I'm just going to paint over here. I'm going to paint on my subjects and then erase it later. I think it's easier. This is just faster. All right. Paint in here. Get over here. And maybe there. All right, so now that I painted all over everything, I'm going to hold down the Alt key. And you'll notice that it turns into a minus, and now I can remove some of that. Oops, Control Z. If you mess up, I might add a little bit more feathering. Oops, let's see. Alt. Oh, I do have a lot of feathering. Okay. So I'm holding down the Alt key as I'm making sure that my mask is not on my subject. So I want to get that overlay, and how to get to the overlay is this little button here, or you tap O on the keyboard. So I usually use O just because it's easier than moving my mouse all around. All right. So it's looking pretty good. I'm going to get this off this arm of the car a bit. And if I notice that we're on our subjects too much later, we can also fix it. In the newer versions of Lightroom, you don't have to go through all this. It's a little easier in some ways. Sometimes it's not actually easier. All right, I think that is pretty good. Just a little bit there. All right, so, oops, missed this right here. There's always some. All right, so we have our subjects deselected here. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to turn the overlay off. So I'm tapping O on my keyboard, or you can hit that. And then I actually want to make the background quite a bit darker so my subject stands out. So I'm going to actually darken it quite a bit. So if I go too far, you're going to see those like glowy edges. So you can also go back in here and fill them in a bit if you need to. Just by looking. So I'm making it too dark on purpose so I can see a little bit better. And then, missed all of that there. And then he's a little glowy, so I'm just gonna get on my subject a little. Because you don't, if he's glowing, if your subject's glowing, it looks too obvious. So it seems like going and overlapping a little is better than the other. All right. All right, so this is time consuming, but I think it's going to make it look pretty good. All right, so I'm going to dial this back a little bit. So let's go back. And I think somewhere in here is pretty good, like that. And then what we can do, you can also enhance the car more. There's all sorts of tips of like painting the highlights and the shadows, darkening and brightening them more. Let's see, what else did I do with color? So let's go ahead and hit done for now. In this version, I also made it a little bit bluer. I added more texture and clarity. So let's go ahead and do that. So here I can just add a little bit of blue so it's a little cooler. And then I went here and just like boosted up my texture a little bit, boosted up my clarity. And when I'm doing these things, I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Let's see, what else can I do? You can also play with color and stuff too. So here for the hue, if you want to tweak the color of the car, you could do that. So I could click on this, then scoot it up and down to see like if there's a slightly different shade of blue that you like. So I kind of like this one. So it just shifts it a little bit. There we go. And then what else can we do? We can go into, I add a lot of masks. So I would keep going with the masking, maybe brightening up some parts like Mr. N's face down there. And and all sorts of fun stuff. And then I would also, just for this photo, I might add a little bit of a vignette. So I go to Effects, and then I'm going to take this and just bring the vignetting down a little bit. That'll darken the corners and make our eyes move more towards the center of the image. And that looks pretty similar to this. I actually like the color in this one better. So when you're fully done, let me just straighten that out a little bit. Done. When you're fully done, you just export like normal, and you have your finished image. If you do want to edit this again, what you would have to do is go to right-click, edit in Photoshop. You're going to get a pop-up, and it's going to say edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments, edit copy, edit original. So what I would do is you can do edit a copy, because what you're going to do is you'll still have your layers. It's just not going to have your Lightroom edits to it. So when you save it and start editing it for the final time in Lightroom, you just kind of want to make sure that you're done. So, because if you save it, you're going to lose all your Lightroom adjustments, because that's kind of overlaid on top. All right. Hope you enjoyed making your multiplicity project. I think these are pretty fun to make. If you have any questions, let me know.